On January 31st, 1999, following the Super Bowl, Fox first premiered Family Guy to the world, where it would then go on to instantly, be screwed over in scheduling by the network and ultimately viewed as a failure, then cancelled by the same network that fucked it over after 3 seasons. But then, after it was cancelled, they released the show on DVD and sold the rights for reruns to Adult Swim. And these two things caused a huge boost of popularity for the, at the time, dead series. So much so that Fox probably should have cancelled that, and brought the show back for a 4th season, where it then went on to be renewed for many more, bringing us up to today, where we recently got our first look at its 25th season. Now, when a studio has a show with this level of popularity that's been running this long and has thus amassed a large dedicated fan base, they tend to capitalize off that in any way possible. Any show on this level gets like video games, merchandise, obviously countless more seasons, spin-offs, and the most important one for this video, a movie. And interestingly, Family Guy has everything on this list except a theatrical movie. But why is that? 24 seasons as of writing and no movie? Pretty nuts, right? I mean, look at other cartoons. Beavis and Butthead, South Park, SpongeBob, The Simpsons, they all got movies, quicker than Family Guy as well. The Simpsons obviously being the most notable one on that list since it's the most comparable to Family Guy. Actually, let's look at the Simpsons movie real quick because I think it could help in answering this question. So the Simpsons movie was released in July of 2007, and at this point in time, the series was in its 18th season on air. The movie ended up grossing $536.4 million, so quite a lot of money. You'd think after this, the logical next step for Fox would be, well, let's make more movies and then more money. They have other shows they could do, or hell, just make a Simpsons movie too. But no, nothing. After the huge success of the Simpsons movie, Fox just did nothing with their other cartoons, theatrical movie-wise, for like 15 years, until they decided to give the big screen another go, with another one of their hugely popular shows in 2022, this being Bob's Burgers. Bob's Burgers originally premiered on the network back in January of 2011, and went on to be hugely successful. At the point of its movie releasing, the series was massively popular and in its 12th season. Interestingly, however, despite being popular, the show was not as popular as Family Guy. The Simpsons is Fox's most popular cartoon, obviously, but second place would have to be Family Guy. Look, here is a Google Trends graph showing Google searches for Bob's Burgers, Family Guy, and The Simpsons over the past 5 years. Bob's Burgers is below Family Guy, and Family Guy is, interestingly, only ever so slightly below The Simpsons, with it even briefly overtaking it at some points. So seeing this, from like a business perspective, it doesn't logically make all too much sense to pump a bunch of money into a movie based off a less popular show with a smaller audience, when you have another show with no movie with a larger audience. That is until you actually think about the audience. And okay, I think this is one of the major reasons the Family Guy movie has yet to be made, and also the reason they actively chose Bob's Burgers over Family Guy here. So both The Simpsons and Bob's Burgers are more wholesome, family-friendly shows than Family Guy. Like, these are all adult shows, but Family Guy is a lot more mature than Bob's Burgers. Like, okay, Bob's Burgers wouldn't have one of their characters sexually assault Marge Simpson and then shoot the rest of the Simpsons family. Now, being a mature show and therefore having a higher age rating is all well and good for TV, however it's a little different for movies. Like, okay, let's be real here, it's no secret a large amount of the Family Guy fanbase is under 17. In fact, comment down below how old you were when you started watching Family Guy. A good chance it's less than 17. This is notable because a Family Guy movie that has the series' same style of humour and writing would most definitely receive an R rating. What this would mean for those outside the US, which it includes me, is that anyone under 17 wanting to see the movie would require a parent or guardian to come with them to see it. And with a lot of Family Guy's audience being teenagers, this rating would impact the box office numbers. On the other hand, Bob's Burgers is more wholesome and the movie ended up receiving a PG-13 rating, which pretty much means anyone can watch it. Theaters usually won't even require a guardian for those under 13. So these movies with this rating have a wider audience and thus larger potential box office earnings. So yeah, now it makes sense why Bob's Burgers was chosen over Family Guy, because despite it technically having a smaller audience, its movie has a larger potential audience. So this poses a problem for Family Guy and gives Fox two options for the potential Family Guy movie. They could either make the movie the way God intended and have it be R-rated, where it'd probably be a better film that's more true to the show, or they could try cleanse and censor it to get a PG-13 rating and make more money, which would result in a worse film but potentially higher revenue. And like, I wouldn't put it past them to try that because more money. Actually, interestingly, okay, this is entirely unrelated because it's a completely different different studio, but originally, Paramount tried to pitch the idea of making the South Park movie PG-13. Paramount wanted to make a PG-13 South Park movie. I wouldn't put it past Fox to try the same thing for Family Guy, honestly. I think this is like the main thing maybe putting them off the movie idea. Like, I guarantee if Family Guy was equally as successful as it is right now, but it had more PG-13 writing, it'd already have a film. Okay, also, there'd be another problem with making a Family Guy movie, and that'd be, well, who would make it? The logical answer would be, well, the people who make the show. But the crew behind the show would probably be busy on the show. I mean, we get a whole season each year, so like, it's a lot of work. It'd be quite hard to add a movie on top of that. I mean, when Seth was at one point asked about a potential movie, he actually brought up this exact issue, stating, quote, "We've been trying to figure out how to do that and the series at the same time without the series suffering." That's actually one of the reasons we didn't get a Simpsons movie until 2007, interestingly. The Simpsons crew were busy working on the show itself and decided that they'd eventually do a movie when the show ended. But then it became apparent that was just like never gonna happen, so they just figured out a way to make the film. And the solution was to just hire more people. Now I can also think of maybe another reason they haven't made a Family Guy movie yet, and also might not for a while. So it relates to the Bob's Burgers movie actually. The Bob's Burgers movie had a budget of $38 million, and at the box office it took $34.2 million, meaning it made a loss. This is obviously not great and might put Fox off adapting its other shows into films. Anyway, there may still be hope for a potential Family Guy movie, however, as on September 29th, 2025, it was announced that Fox were working on a sequel to The Simpsons movie, which is set to release in 2027. So who knows? If that bangs at the box office, which probably will because it's The Simpsons, then maybe we'll get a Family Guy movie. Finally, there's one last huge reason that a Family Guy movie hasn't happened yet, and that is that Seth MacFarlane's been a busy guy for the past many years. He stepped away from Family Guy around 2011 when he was doing Ted, and after that went on to do A Million Ways to Die in the West, Ted 2, The Orville, Ted the Series, and he even voiced the mouse in Sing.
Hi, sorry to interrupt. Seth MacFarlane.
Holy crap, it's the mouse from Sing!
So yeah, busy guy. And I'd imagine he's quite important to the creation of the Family Guy movie, you know, being the guy who made the show and also voices half the cast. Okay, now we've established all that, I think there's another important question to ask, and that's, what would a Family Guy movie even be like? Well, interestingly, whilst we don't have any kind of premise or anything, apparently Seth MacFarlane does know what the Family Guy movie will be about. When Seth was speaking at PaleyFest 2024, he stated,
"Will there be a movie, Seth, a Family Guy movie?"
Yes, I have known what that movie will be for the past 15 years. I just haven't had the time to get to it, but I do know what it will be.
So it's interesting that he does actually know what the film will be about. It's not even like he said he's thought about what the film will be about. He directly said that he knows and has known since like 2009. I think when discussing a Family Guy movie, the biggest sort of point to cover is, would a Family Guy movie contain cutaway gags? Like, the cutaway gag is a famous part of Family Guy. There's so many iconic, funny Family Guy cutaway gags. There's also some shit ones, but that's besides the point. Cutaway gags can work and be funny. However, they are very much a thing that was created with TV in mind. Like, a cutaway gag literally does what the title suggests. It cuts away from the actual plot to do a gag for the purpose of making you laugh, which is fine for the average episode of Family Guy, but for a movie, maybe not so much, at least not in like the third act. Let's be real, a Family Guy movie would need to have cutaway gags. It just wouldn't work otherwise, because that's an iconic part of the show. Also, interestingly, Seth has done cutaway gags in movies before. In Ted 2, there's the improv scene where it cuts to John and Ted yelling sad suggestions at improv. So really, the question isn't, would the Family Guy movie have cutaway gags? It's, should the Family Guy movie have cutaway gags? And well, yeah, it probably should, but only in like the first half. Because, okay, I've brought this up before, but in season 16 of Family Guy, there's this episode called Switch the Flip, and after I watched that episode, I thought to myself, wow, that was really good and much better than the average modern Family Guy episode. And what I then noticed was the episode didn't have a single cutaway gag during its climax, which really worked well for it because it kept me interested in the actual plot. That would also work very well for a movie if they just had cutaway gags in like the first half and then just none for like the second half. Like, okay, to compare it to the Simpsons movie, because I think it's a good way of trying to get my point across, if the Family Guy movie was the same as the Simpsons movie, I feel the part until they are forced to leave Springfield should have cutaways, if you get what I mean. Anyway, last question I want to cover is, how would the Family Guy movie be released? released? Would it be a theatrical movie or a Disney Plus or Hulu, depending on where you live, exclusive? See, what you'd hope would it'd be a theatrical release, which surely makes the most sense, right? Like they could make all that box office money. But then, if you take into account the performance of the Bob's Burgers movie and the age rating thing, they could lean more towards a streaming release because, well, they'd get like subscription money, and also the age rating wouldn't even matter if it's just on streaming. Like a 13-year-old could be turned away from the theater, however, no one can stop that same 13-year-old just pressing a single button and watching the film on Disney Plus. So I hope it's in cinemas. I'd love to see freaking Peter and Brian on the big screen. In fact, I hope it's in IMAX. Okay, final thing I want to mention because someone will bring it up is Family Guy already has a movie.
It's not a movie at all, Brian. Just 3 episodes back to back. This thing is an insult.
So on September 27th, 2005, when the show was in season 4, aka the revival season, Fox released Stewie Griffin: The Untold Story, which was a direct-to-DVD 88-minute movie. This logically makes sense since Family Guy had absurdly good DVD sales, so making a direct-to-DVD film for it was a smart move, and it seemingly paid off because the film made $80 million in sales. However, this isn't considered to be Family Guy the movie in the same way the Simpsons movie or the SpongeBob SquarePants movie are to those shows. I mean, Family Guy in the show itself literally said,
It's not a movie at all, Brian. Just 3 episodes back to back.
which is in reference to the fact this movie was eventually aired as a 3-parter of episodes on TV and cut down to 66 minutes. And also, when Seth was asked in that clip from earlier if there'd be a Family Guy movie, he didn't respond by saying there already was one and then bringing up this movie, he just answered as if there wasn't one. Okay, wait, forget everything I just said, that the Family Guy movie's here, it's on YouTube. Never mind, I guess. Anyway, that concludes this video where I talk for like 11 minutes about a movie that doesn't fucking exist. Comment down below your thoughts on Family Guy the movie, and make sure to, in like several years when the film exists, remember this video and comment, who's here after the movie was announced? Anyway, if you enjoyed, like and subscribe, and also check out the videos on screen. Also I have a Cameo for $5 on all these social medias. And shout out to the really freaking sweet tier members, Callum Williamson, Jay Manny, and Ted Q. Goodbye.